Chapter 3447. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Sisihong Tianbiyu was only 25 or 26 years old, similar to him, but in terms of cultivation level, he had already surpassed him by a large margin. From this point, even if Hong Tianbiyu did not suppress his cultivation level, the two could still be considered a fair battle. Who asked you to be lacking in talent and slow in cultivation? But on what basis did the other party advance so rapidly? If there were no treasured trees or rare plants in the prison, it would indeed be greatly affected, but because of the environment of heaven and earth, the outside world also did not have many treasured fruits or rare plants, so on what basis did this guy surpass him? This was a backward land of martial art, how could such a monster appear? Luo Jintang took a deep breath, suppressing the distracting thoughts in his heart, and said, "Please advise me." Hong Tianbiyu smiled faintly, taking a step forward, pointing out a finger, pressing it towards Luo Jintang's forehead. Luo Jintang could not help but reveal an angry expression. "You are looking down on me too much." He gave a light shout, and a golden bell had already appeared on his body, covered with many characters, but not that half an ancient character. Hong Tianbiyu pointed down. "Pa." The golden bell immediately shattered. "What?" Luo Jintang silently said, his eyes filled with astonishment. This was too exaggerated. He retreated in shock, and Hong Tianbiyu did not follow up with another attack, but instead said indifferently, "Use your strongest technique, or you will not be able to block 3 of my moves." This confidence, this domineeringness, everyone's blood was instantly ignited, and they all became excited, shouting in unison. Other than the sacred emperor, they still had Hong Tianbiyu, and also Ling Han. Luo Jintang could not help but be convinced. The other had only used a light finger to break through his golden bell defense. This was who knew how many times stronger than the 9th prince, not using any mystical ability, just a finger. He immediately used all his strength, his blood and chi were already boiling, and the golden bell reappeared, half an ancient character floating out, as if it had transcended time and space, and there was a kind of supreme will circulating. Only now did Hong Tianbiyu reveal a solemn expression, but he was still incomparably confident, his hands behind his back, like a senior guiding a junior. Luo Jintang attacked with the golden bell, and with a loud shout, the protective golden bell actually flew up from his head, and then enveloped towards Hong Tianbiyu. This also worked? Wasn't that used for protection? Why did it seem to have become a weapon now? The golden bell covered Hong Tianbiyu's head, and the half-ancient character emitted an aura that could suppress the ages. The speed at which the barrier descended was not fast, but even someone with 10 times the speed of sound would not be able to escape. The reason was because of the half-ancient character on the barrier, which made it impossible for anyone to even think about dodging. Hong Tianbiyu smiled and said, "If it's really this senior who makes a move, then I can only be crushed. But you're only in the engravement realm. How strong can this borrowed power be? Enlighten your apertures." "I can sweep away all enlightened apertures in the engravement realm. In front of me, this is nothing." He struck out with his palm, and a ball of flame flickered in the center of his palm. His attack was strangely fast, and before anyone could see it clearly, his palm had already pressed against the golden bell. With a crack, the golden bell was broken. Hiss, even with the support of half an ancient character, Hong Tianbiyu's battle prowess was too terrifying. Ling Han used his eye sorcery and caught some clues. He was shocked and looked at Second Baby in disbelief. Second Baby nodded and said, "That is indeed an eye. Hey, that person has an eye on his hand. Could it be the Po Di race?" The Po Di race's arms are long and reach the ground. They don't look like this. That's the green-eyed race. Although the green-eyed race's eyes can grow on any part of their body, their entire body is blue. Only their eyes are green. That's not it either. The Calabash brothers started discussing, but they did not come to a unanimous conclusion. Second Baby shook his head. "That is the eye of an immemorial beast." "What?" the 6 children exclaimed in unison. Their faces were filled with disbelief. Sixth Baby was naturally ignored. Immemorial beasts are so high and mighty. Even if they die, they will either go to the starry tomb or burn their bodies. They will never leave their corpses for future generations. Eldest Baby shook his head. Second Baby added, I also saw that there was a sword mark on that eye. It was a very deep wound. Second baby, you mean that an immemorial beast was injured by an expert, and one of its eyes was cut off? Fourth baby exclaimed. There shouldn't be many in the entire universe who can injure an immemorial beast. Fifth baby also shouted. Second baby nodded. If not, how could an enlightening realm cultivator control the eye of an immemorial beast? It was because the eye was injured that he fused with it. Just as the children were talking, Hong Tianbu had already started his counterattack. Without the support of the ancient characters, Luo Jintang's strength was barely comparable to the early stage of the enlightening realm. He was no match for Hong Tianbu at all. In just a few moves, he was defeated. There was no excuse. I've lost. Luo Jintang sighed. I've long heard of the twin prides of the imperial capital. Brother Hong is a genius who can suppress the heavens. I didn't believe it before the battle, but after this battle, I'm convinced. Hong Tianbu smiled faintly and looked at Ling Han. Twin prides. Haha, whoever gets the title is qualified to be on the same level as me. He suddenly said to Ling Han, do you think you can be on the same level as me? His voice was clear. Although it was not very loud, it reverberated in everyone's heart. This was an indescribable dominance. Are you worthy to be on the same level as me? One had to know that Ling Han had repeatedly defeated the geniuses of the demon race. His talent and strength had already been recognized, which was why he was called the twin prides of the imperial capital. In the past, he was only known as the second of Hong Tianbu. Now, Hong Tianbu was questioning in public whether Ling Han was worthy to be on the same level as him. How should he answer? If the answer was yes, then when Hong Tianbu issued a challenge, how could Ling Han respond? No matter how strong he was, how could he be a match for an enlightening realm cultivator? To ask Hong Tianbu to seal his own cultivation? What a joke, you're already on the same level as me, and you still want me to suppress my cultivation. But the answer was no. No matter what the reason was, he had to admit in public that he was inferior to Hong Tianbu. Then, no matter how great Ling Han's achievements were in the future, this scene would be remembered by everyone. People would dig up and say that Hong Tianbu was stronger. This was forcing him to abdicate. Ling Han smiled faintly. Hong Tianbu was indeed Hong Tianbu. He was obviously bullying the weak, but he covered it up with a kind of magnanimity, making it impossible for people to find fault with him. He leaped off the ground and strode towards Hong Tianbu, stopping 10 feet in front of him. The mountain breeze blew past, and the corners of their clothes fluttered at the same time, elegant and out of the world. Indeed, the title of twin prides is not suitable. Ling Han nodded. When the crowd heard this, they all thought that Ling Han was admitting defeat and couldn't help but shake their heads. You can't blame him. Hong Tianbu has already entered the enlightening realm. Ling Han is definitely not his match. This is called self-preservation. Yes, take a step back and you'll see the world. Where there's life, there's hope. There's no hope, idiot. Many people agreed with Ling Han's temporary tolerance. As a man, he had to be flexible. However, Ling Han's next words almost made everyone fall. How are you worthy to be on the same level as me? Cell phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3449. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Sisihong Tian Bu obviously had some understanding of the absolute fairness formation. After withstanding Ling Han's attack, he did not use any more powerful moves and allowed the battle to be in a stalemate. This was because he knew that once the power of the formation disappeared, he would be able to fully recover his battle strength. At that time, he would be able to easily suppress Ling Han. Do I need to use my trump card? Ling Han, on the other hand, had used all of his ultimate moves, but was still unable to suppress the Great Heaven Steps. One must know that Hong Tianbu was also a genius who could fight across realms. In theory, his battle strength could still reach the Enlightenment realm, surpassing Ling Han's limit. If not for his baleful aura being too powerful, he would have been defeated by Hong Tianbu many times over. However, Ling Han only had 3 minutes left. He wanted to defeat Hong Tianbu in 3 minutes. How could he do that? Ling Han's right hand shook and a hammer appeared in his hand. This was a 1-star magic tool, which he called the Drought Thunder Hammer. Although he still had a 2-star magic tool, with his current strength, there was no difference between 1 and 2 stars. In any case, he could not fully display its power. Moreover, using a 1-star magic tool could also hide his strength. After all, there was an old monster on the immortal path here. As expected, the moment he took out the Drought Thunder Hammer, the old man's eyes narrowed and revealed a look of greed. He had been imprisoned before, how could he have a magic tool? One must know that magic tools had always been precious. If a martial artist wanted to buy a suitable magic tool for himself, he would usually have to spend all his fortune. Therefore, he was naturally jealous. Hong Tianbiyu's expression turned cold. He felt pressure from the hammer. If he were to receive it with his bare hands, he would be injured. He decisively took out a long spear that emitted an ancient aura. There were lines on the spear's body, and when he touched it, it shone. Kill. Ling Han held the hammer in his left hand and shook it with force. Quang, there was a sudden clap of thunder. The lines on the hammer shone, and then a white bolt of lightning shot out, striking towards Hong Tianbiyu. Although it looked like lightning, its speed was far inferior to real lightning. Otherwise, if it was struck at the speed of light, who could block or dodge it at this stage? Hong Tianbiyu lightly shouted and waved his spear towards the lightning. Sizzle, the tip of the spear touched the lightning, and the electric current immediately flowed along the spear's body, causing Hong Tianbiyu's hands to go numb, and his black hair to stand on end. In this exchange, Ling Han won, while Hong Tianbiyu suffered a great loss. Hong Tianbiyu hurriedly retreated. He frowned and said, "I didn't expect that you actually obtained an immortal-grade artifact." The spear in his hand was also obtained from a historical site, but it was only at the level of the secret-seeking realm. Although it was only one level lower than a 1-star ritual implement, the difference in level was as vast as heaven and earth. "I can't just let you have all my luck, right?" Ling Han brandished his Drought Thunder Hammer as he attacked. His right hand was clenched into a fist, and a stone was hidden in his palm. However, he didn't throw it out. He just kept attacking. The Hong Tian steps continued to dodge. Even if Ling Han was unable to fully display the power of a 1-star celestial artifact, it was still a celestial artifact from the celestial path. Even a trace of its power would be extremely shocking. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. Electric currents blazed chaotically, forcing Hong Tianbiyu to continuously retreat, not daring to parry. His eyes flashed with anger, which he could not bear. Because he was Hong Tianbiyu, an invincible heaven-suppressing monster. He snorted, and a terrifying aura circulated in his right hand. Even absolute fairness was unable to suppress his cultivation. In his chest, one after another, inscription patterns of dark destruction shone, and his power began to rise rapidly. He used the primordial fierce beast's eye. Ling Han was waiting for this moment. He roared, and with a wave of his right hand, Xiao, the heavenly rune jade immediately shot out. 9 times the speed of sound. Hong Tianbiyu's reaction was astonishingly fast, and he hurriedly used his spear to block. Peng, but this secret-seeking realm ritual implement was smashed by the heavenly rune jade, and it instantly exploded like an umbrella. The heavenly rune jade's momentum didn't stop, and it continued to collide with Hong Tianbiyu Peng. Hong Tianbiyu's entire body was sent flying. However, with the long spear in his hand blocking the attack, and with his cultivation having recovered to the 6-vein realm, this attack only caused his chest to explode, but it didn't kill him. Ling Han also let out a muffled groan, and his entire body flew into the air. Hong Tianbiyu also launched a counterattack, and with a star-shattering finger, he similarly heavily injured him. The 2 young prodigies fell to the ground at the same time, both bleeding profusely, and for a moment, neither could stand up. Both sides were injured. No one had expected this result. It wasn't Hong Tianbiyu who crushed Ling Han and monopolized the position of the heaven-suppressing monster, nor was it Ling Han who overtook him and overturned a veteran expert. However, if one were to really think about it, Hong Tianbiyu was in the enlightenment realm, and he also had the cultivation of the engravement realm during battle. With such a comparison, who was more monstrous? Dad. The 7 Calabash brothers all pounced forward, and it was still sixth baby who retrieved the heavenly rune jade, while the other milk babies guarded around Ling Han, all of them brimming with murderous intent. Hong Tian-Bu wasn't alone, and he had many powerful subordinates under him. Now, they all rushed out to protect him. After a while, Ling Han and Hong Tian-Bu both struggled to get up. Although their injuries were very serious, their eyes were filled with the desire to fight. "Let's go," Hong Tian-Bu said in a low voice, and with the support of a few subordinates, he quickly left. Ling Han also wanted to leave, but the old man from before came up to him with a smile, and said, "Little friend, can you part with that hammer and give it to me? If possible, I would also like to buy that piece of jade." The 7 Calabash brothers acted as if they were facing a great enemy. This was an expert on the path of immortality, even if he was only in the Foundation establishment realm. Ling Han smiled, and said, "I'm sorry, I still have great use for these 2 items. "Oh." The old man nodded, but he didn't move. He was in an intense mental struggle, whether or not he should make a move to snatch it. If he made a move, Ling Han definitely wouldn't be able to stop him. However, this was the imperial capital, and if he made a move to snatch a junior's item, he would definitely be suppressed by Chen Fengyang. Not to mention anything else, just the green dragon array spirit was not something he could match. He had some friendship with Kui Zhanhai, and the 2 of them had often sparred with each other in the past. However, if he were to obtain a 1-star magic tool, his strength would definitely skyrocket, and it wouldn't be difficult for his battle prowess to double. Then, would he be able to rival the array spirit? He was hesitating, weighing the pros and cons. If he failed, he would have to serve his sentence in the imperial capital like Kui Zhanhai. A dignified expert of the immortal path was serving his sentence in the territory of mortals. Isn't this a huge joke? After hesitating for a long time, the old man finally suppressed the impulse and greed in his heart. He smiled at Ling Han and turned to leave. Luo Jintang hurriedly followed, and the old man and the young man soon disappeared into the distance. End of this chapter. Mobile reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3450. A Good Romance. BQG 6. CC. With the departure of the old man, the pressure that had been weighing down on Ling Han also disappeared without a trace. "Old man, I'll definitely beat you up in the future," Ling Han said in his heart. If the old man had made a move just now, then when Ling Han had enough power in the future, he would definitely get rid of this old bastard. But now that the old man had given him a scare, then he would also give the old man a scare in the future. With the help of a few milk babies, Ling Han returned to his residence. With the strength of the bottle-gourd brothers, carrying Ling Han back was naturally a piece of cake. Ling Han concocted some medicine and began to recover. This time, his injuries were not light. In the end, Hong Tianyun had unleashed battle prowess of 6 veins, which was originally enough to kill a cultivator in the pinnacle bone tier. However, Ling Han's battle prowess had far surpassed that of a cultivator in the pinnacle bone tier. Thus, this strike had not been able to kill Ling Han, but it had still caused him severe injuries. "Your Highness, isn't it too rash to attack in the capital?" In the 7th prince's residence, an advisor was advising the 7th prince. The 7th prince waved his hand. "This brat already knows that the beast tide that destroyed Hidden Tiger City was instigated by me. If I don't silence him, how can I be at ease? There's no proof. How can His Majesty believe his one-sided words? And how would Lord Yang dare to summon Your Highness to stand trial?" The advisor continued. "No one would have thought that there would be a green dragon formation in the capital. The formation spirit seems to be everywhere. If the formation spirit catches Your Highness committing murder, then there's really no way to quibble." The 7th prince frowned. "Father has a special trust in that brat, so if that brat goes to complain, Father might really investigate. I'm not worried, but can you guarantee that no information will be leaked?" The advisor was immediately speechless. Under the majesty of the Saint Emperor, who could not be shaken? Moreover, that brat is seriously injured this time, so it's the best time to get rid of him. The 7th Imperial Prince said, a hint of fear in his eyes. The might of Ling Han's heavenly pattern jade was too terrifying, and even Hong Tian-Bu was heavily injured by it. If it landed on his body, it was impossible for him to survive. If it was an ordinary flying sword or knife, he only needed to use his telekinesis to form a net and easily block it. But the heavenly pattern jade could weigh tens of thousands of kilograms. How could he block it? Thinking of the heavenly pattern jade, he revealed a look of greed. With his telekinesis and the heavenly pattern jade, how could he unleash terrifying power? He believed that he would be instantly killed even in the secret realm. He no longer hesitated. He had to take advantage of this opportunity to kill Ling Han and take the heavenly pattern jade. Coincidentally, Ling Han had just used absolute fairness, and was also heavily wounded. If he made a move now, it would definitely be a piece of cake. Ling Han consumed it orally and applied it externally. After treating his wounds, he said, "I no longer have the deterrence of absolute fairness. Tonight, those demons and monsters will definitely make a move on me. Father, hide in the spirit-nourishing gourd." "We'll find a place to hide," second brother suggested. Eldest brother rolled his eyes. "What are you afraid of? If one comes, we'll kill one. If two comes, we'll kill both." "Yes." Fourth brother nodded. "Kill." Fifth brother nodded. Ling Han shook his head. "No, let's go somewhere else." "Where?" the 7 children asked together. "Princess Bai Xiao's." Ling Han smiled. "Why go to Princess Bai Xiao's?" Because Princess Bai Xiao was in the secret realm. To be able to reach such a height at such a young age, her combat power was absolutely amazing. Therefore, entering Princess Bai Xiao's residence, unless an expert of the immortal path intervened, there was no other way. Then, would Princess Bai Xiao attack Ling Han? She wanted to, but she was a demon. If something happened to Ling Han in her residence, the demons would not be able to withstand Chen Fengyan's wrath. Therefore, not only did Ling Han not have to worry about Princess Bai Xiao attacking him, he could even use her as a bodyguard. Moreover, this little demon was attracting hatred for him. Why couldn't Ling Han give her some trouble instead? "Come, let's go eat and drink for free." When the 7 children heard this, they were all excited. How could they miss such a good opportunity to eat and drink for free? Therefore, the group of 8 arrived at Princess Bai Xiao's residence in a grandiose and ostentatious manner. What? Princess Bai Xiao was shocked. Ling Han actually visited her residence. What the hell? Please. She thought for a moment and asked someone to invite Ling Han in. Not long after, Ling Han brought the 7 children to the living room. "Master Ling, welcome. May I know what advice you have for me?" the demon princess said without raising her head as she sipped her tea. It was as if she was expressing that she did not welcome Ling Han. Ling Han smiled. "I don't dare to give advice. It's just that I haven't seen you for a long time and miss you. That's why I'm here today." Who was he trying to fool? Princess Bai Xiao naturally would not believe him. She looked at Ling Han's clearly bulging chest, which was wrapped in thick bandages, and immediately understood. "You were severely wounded in your battle with Hong Tian Bu, and have used up absolute fairness, and are waiting to recover. Thus, an ordinary pinnacle bone tier elite would probably be able to kill you now. Thus, you have come to seek refuge with me." Ling Han smiled. "An ordinary ultimate bone realm can't kill me. It has to be an engravement realm at least." Princess Bai Xiao immediately felt like she was going crazy. Her main point was not this. She snorted. "Why should I help you?" Ling Han exclaimed. "Isn't the princess and I in love? Didn't you sleep at my place some time ago?" "Nonsense," Princess Bai Xiao berated. But thinking about it again, she had indeed created the illusion that the two of them had spent the night together in order to incite the prince's killing intent towards Ling Han. She did not expect that she would be used by Ling Han instead. Was this a trap of one's own making? She had created a killing intent for Ling Han, but she had to be his bodyguard. How aggrieved was this? "It's not easy to take care of children. Your Highness, is there anything to eat?" "It doesn't have to be anything good, just some demon beast meat will do," Ling Han said with a smile. He was not polite at all. Princess Bai Xiao was so angry that she swung her sleeves and left. However, Ling Han and the others were thick-skinned. They just sat there and did not have the slightest intention of returning. They could be so shameless, but Princess Bai Xiao could not. She still ordered people to send dinner. However, this was only the beginning of her nightmare. Your Highness, since you're treating, don't be so stingy. Get more food. Ling Han shouted. He and the 7 children were all big eaters. Food that could fill an ordinary person's stomach was only enough to stimulate their appetite. Princess Bai Xiao was speechless. How could there be such a customer? He was too unreserved. She could only order people to prepare food and send it over. After sending it 3 times, Ling Han and the milk baby finally expressed that it was enough and that there was no need for more food. Master Ling, you've eaten and rested. It's about time to go back, right? Princess Bai Xiao asked through gritted teeth. Reading on the phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3451. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han took a sip of the tea and praised, "Good tea." He was deliberately pretending to be deaf and mute. Princess Bai Xiao glared angrily. When she was staying at Ling Han's house, she never thought that Ling Han would one day rely on her. An eye for an eye. Her beautiful eyes flickered, and her anger suddenly turned into a smile. Master Ling, if you are willing to join the demon race, then Bai Xiao will definitely do her best to protect you. Ling Han pretended to be surprised and said, Bai Xiao, you are treating me like an outsider. What is our relationship? Do we need to be so clear? We have no relationship at all. Princess Bai Xiao had the urge to kill, but Chen Fengyang was like a huge mountain that she could only look up to. He stood above the demon race, and she did not dare to act rashly. Otherwise, it would not only be her problem, but the entire demon race would pay the price for her mistake. Damn it, he is just a small ultimate bone realm. She gritted her teeth and said, arrange a guest room for Master Ling and the children. Yes, Your Highness. A servant nodded. Ling Han then stood up and said, little fellows, let's go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. The 7 milk babies were all laughing and joking as they followed Ling Han. You heard me very clearly, Princess Bai Xiao said in her heart, and she had the urge to hit someone again. Ling Han went to Princess Bai Xiao's residence. The 7th prince was stunned. While he was shocked, he also felt an indescribable anger. Previously, when Princess Bai Xiao stayed in Ling Han's residence for a night, it already made him almost go find Ling Han and directly kill this guy. Now, you guys are returning the favor. You stayed in my house, and I'll stay in yours again. Do you really want to die? He said with hatred. When Princess Bai Xiao entered the imperial capital, she sent a clear signal that she would marry a prince to promote the relationship between the human race and the demon race. But now, Princess Bai Xiao had actually hooked up with Ling Han. What was going on? Previously, all the princes felt that they were cuckolded, but the sudden change of heaven and earth had diverted everyone's attention. However, it was different this time. It was extremely dangerous outside the imperial capital, and there was no way to divert the internal conflicts. Ling Han's openly staying in Princess Bai Xiao's residence would cause a great uproar. Your Highness, should we cancel the plan? The advisor asked. The 7th prince thought about it and said, no, this is a rare opportunity. Originally, those who wanted to kill that brat could line up, but today, I'm sure that many people won't be able to resist. Since that's the case, why don't Your Highness just sit back and watch? After all, there are people who can complete the task for Your Highness, the advisor said. The 7th prince shook his head. Although that brat is injured, his strength is still not weak. I want to see him die with my own eyes. Only then can I truly feel at ease. There was something he didn't say. Who knew if something had happened between Ling Han and Princess Bai Xiao? Therefore, he had to see Ling Han die to appease the anger in his heart. The imperial capital was destined to be lively today. Several princes had already secretly decided to take advantage of the night to make a move. Ling Han actually dared to openly stay in Princess Bai Xiao's residence. This was intolerable. It just so happened that Ling Han was seriously injured, and there was no absolute fairness anymore. Now was the best time to kill him. In the middle of the night, there were many figures outside Princess Bai Xiao's residence. From time to time, people in black clothes and masks could be seen coming and going. There were even people who climbed up a tree and were embarrassed to find that there were people staring at them. They hurriedly smiled and jumped down to find another place where they could overlook the residence. Someone couldn't help but sneak into the residence, preparing to launch a sneak attack. However, he soon saw the door open, and this person was thrown out like garbage. Soon, a second and third person sneaked in, but without exception, they all went in vertically and came out horizontally. This residence was like a bottomless pit. After people went in, there was no movement, and when they came out again, they were already unconscious. No one heard the sound of the battle at all. At first, no one noticed 1 or 2 people, but after more than 10 people were lying outside the residence, it finally attracted everyone's attention. Was this a dragon's pool or a tiger's den? The 7th prince was about to make a move himself, but he saw a figure rushing into the residence. 9th prince, he murmured and hurriedly stopped. The 9th prince was at the enlightenment state. If he made a move, how could a person who had lost absolute fairness and was seriously injured defend against him? Thinking of this, he naturally wouldn't rush forward, lest he attracted unnecessary trouble. However, in just an instant, there was a loud noise in the courtyard. Bang, bang, bang. Then, a hole was blasted open in the courtyard wall, and a figure flew out and lay on the ground. Although this person's face was covered, the 7th prince could tell at a glance that it was his 9th brother. How was this possible? The 9th prince was at the enlightenment state, and how many people in the capital were stronger than him? Moreover, there were only a handful of people who could defeat him in such a short period of time. Could it be that Xuecheluo was here? No, Xuecheluo had already returned to the demon clan, so there couldn't be another secret realm expert here. Just at this moment, a figure flew out from within the manor and stood proudly on the highest pavilion. She held a sword in one hand and wore a white dress that was as white as snow. As the night wind blew, the dress clung tightly to her delicate figure, outlining every detail of her perfect figure. She was as beautiful as a fairy, like a painting. The 7th prince was suffocated by her beauty, and then his eyes widened. It was Princess Bai Xiao. What? A strange thought surged in the 7th prince's mind. Could it be that the mysterious expert who defeated the 9th prince was this demon clan princess? Hiss. Whoever dares to barge into my residence again will be killed without mercy, Princess Bai Xiao said coldly, like a goddess. She finally stopped concealing her cultivation, and a powerful aura circulated, making it difficult for the people outside the residence to breathe. The 7th prince no longer doubted that this was a powerhouse of the secret realm. How was this possible? The demon clan princess was only in her 20s, so how did she cultivate? This was not just a matter of cultivation resources, but also a matter of powerful martial art talent. The 7th prince's eyes narrowed. The demon clan had actually sent such a genius to the capital. Was it really that simple? If he was the demon king, would he sacrifice such a talented descendant? Princess Bai Xiao swept her gaze around, and then leaped down. Her face was full of anger. All along, she had used her personal charm to wander among the princes and nobles with ease. But now, she was forced to show her true strength. In the future, others would definitely be wary of her, and she would no longer be able to maintain her aloof status. All of this was that bastard's fault. Reading on the mobile. Chapter 3453. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Sisijin Sanyin continued, although your realms are the same, Hongtian Bu definitely has the advantage of a small realm. Moreover, he has already enlightened his apertures, so his battle awareness and experience are above yours. Under such circumstances, you were still able to fight with him until both of you were injured. That really shocked me. Thank you for the compliment, uncle. Linghan smiled, but you didn't come here just to compliment me, did you? Jin Sanyin stopped smiling and said, I want to ask you about someone. Oh, who? Linghan asked. Jin Shaohuang. Jin Sanyin said, his gaze fixed on Linghan. Linghan spread out his hands and said, oh, I met him once. Why? The young emperor was this old man's grandson, but he died right after meeting you, little friend, Jin Sanyin said. Then I'm sorry for your loss, uncle. Linghan nodded. Jin Sanyin ignored him and continued, I thought he was killed by a strong cultivator of the immortal path who suddenly appeared in the Arcana territory, but it turns out that he was killed even earlier. There's such a thing. Ling Han pretended to be surprised. Jin Sanyin nodded. With such strength, I believe it was you. Oh. You have absolute fairness. You can pull your opponent's level to the same level as you, and in a battle of the same level, who can be your opponent? Jin Sanyin said. Ling Han shook his head. Uncle, what you said is meaningless. According to what you said, as long as someone dies, it's my fault. Jin Sanyin smiled and said, then I'll change the question. Where did you see the people from the Lu family? Ling Han was surprised. Of course he had seen the people from the Lu family. He had even killed them together with the people from the Jin family. I'm not sure. He shook his head. Then I'll take my leave. Jin Sanyin turned and left. Uncle. Ling Han called out. Did you remember something? Jin Sanyin stopped. Next time, remember to knock on the door, Ling Han said. Jin Sanyin couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He snorted, leaped up, and quickly disappeared. What is this? Peaceful measures before force. Ling Han stretched lazily and did not take it to heart. He had activated the array formation when he was sleeping. If someone really dared to come, then they could forget about going back. Ninth Master, what did that brat say? As soon as Jin Sanyin left the Ling family, he got into a car, and a middle-aged man in his 40s was sitting in the driver's seat. Jin Sanyin snorted and said, young emperor and young sword were probably killed by that brat. The middle-aged man revealed a murderous aura and said, since Lord Ju has confirmed it, then let's make our move and kill this brat. Jin Sanyin shook his head. This old man has long since confirmed that it was that kid who did it. I'm not here to confirm it. The middle-aged man felt strange. Then why did you go to look for Ling Han? But he didn't ask. Jin Sanyin explained, that kid has absolute fairness. Even the Arcana realm will be dragged to the same level by him. I have to say, that kid's combat ability is really strong at the same level. This old man is definitely not his match. Then we can send someone to exhaust him first. Let that kid use absolute fairness first, then Lord Ju, you can make your move, the middle-aged man said. Jin Sanyin glared at him. Who should we send? That kid's normal combat ability can sweep through the engravement realm. How many enlightening realm experts do we have in the Jin family? Which one of them can be sacrificed? The middle-aged man could only be embarrassed and speechless. Then what should we do? He asked after a while. Jin Sanyin sneered. This is the reason why this old man came. He operated on the optical computer, and instantly, the conversation he had with Ling Han before rang out. The people sent by the Lu family were all killed. It should also be done by this kid, so this old man will hand this conversation over to the Lu family and let them make their move. If they can succeed, then it will naturally save this old man a lot of trouble. If they can't, then that evil brat will definitely use absolute fairness. This old man will then make his move easily. The middle-aged man suddenly understood and gave a thumbs up. Brilliant, truly brilliant. Jin Sanyin smiled without saying anything, but his face was full of pride. After Ling Han activated the warning formation, he entered the spirit cultivation gourd to rest. After accumulating for a day, the spirit cultivation gourd was already full of mysterious energy that could improve his telekinesis. He slept in peace. Even if someone really broke in, it would be impossible for them to discover the existence of this gourd in a short time. At 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, Ling Han suddenly woke up. He had received a warning that someone had broken in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ling Han counted a total of 6 people. He immediately came out of the gourd and saw that the 7 children all sat up straight, each of them full of energy. Dad, 9, 10, no, 16 people came, second baby said immediately while gesturing with his fingers. Ling Han could only be speechless. Second baby was extremely smart, but he was terrible at counting. How did he grow up? Let's go out and see these uninvited guests. Ling Han went out with the 7 children. Coincidentally, the 6 people were also coming in his direction, as if they knew where Ling Han lived. However, when they saw Ling Han's 7 people coming out to greet them, they were obviously shocked. What was going on? They were here to sneak attack, but the person in question was coming head-on. This was a little embarrassing. "It's good that you came out on your own, so we won't waste time looking for you," one person said. The 6 people were all masked, and one could only judge from their height that this person was the 3rd tallest. "Spread out a little, this kid has absolute fairness. The area it covers is about 100 feet, the 4th tallest person said. The 6 people really spread out and were very far from each other. "Ling Han, but you killed Lu Jiao," the tallest masked person shouted. Ling Han was surprised. This person was actually not from the Jin clan. He thought about it for a moment, and suddenly realized that this was Jin Sanyan's real purpose in coming to him. He smiled and did not hide it anymore. "Yes, I killed him. How dare you?" The 6 masked people shouted in unison. Although Lu Jiao was not the most outstanding disciple of the Lu clan, he could be ranked in the top 5. Dying in the hands of Ling Han was obviously a huge loss. Kill. The 3rd tallest masked person was the first to attack. He punched from afar, and the force turned into a light ball the size of a human head, blasting towards Ling Han. "Enlightening realm." Ling Han nodded. After knowing his strength, which engravement realm cultivator would dare to fight him? He quickly dodged. The battle power of the enlightening realm was enough to kill him. With a thought, he circulated his spiritual power. Immediately, the formation bases set up in every corner of the house were activated by him. The energy of the jade seeds was extracted, and the momentum of heaven and earth was triggered. "My cultivation has been reduced. Damn, how did my cultivation get reduced too? Me too. Reading on the phone is more refreshing." Chapter 3454. BQG6, CC BQG6. CC. The group of 6 from the Lu clan were all astonished. Although they had sent out 6 people, their goal was to force Ling Han to be absolutely fair. As long as this formation was removed, no matter how monstrous Ling Han's talent was, he would only be able to walk the path of death. But they were clearly more than 30 meters away from Ling Han. How could they be affected? Moreover, even if Ling Han took off absolute fairness and placed it somewhere, it could only affect one person. They had already put enough distance between them. So, they couldn't figure it out. Ling Han smiled and said, "You've all been tricked by Jin Sanyan, that old bastard." Tricked? The 6 of them looked at each other in dismay, seemingly very confused. Ling Han said leisurely, "I even killed Jin Xiaohuang and Jin Xiaojian." That old bastard clearly knew, but he didn't do anything himself. "Don't you understand what he's planning? What exactly did you do?" The 2nd tallest masked man exclaimed. Clearly, he didn't take Ling Han's words to heart. Ling Han smiled. "I felt that this absolute fairness formation had too many flaws. It could only last for a short time and cover a very limited area. So, I modified it a little. F*CK, so the area it could cover had increased." Hiss, could it be that the duration had increased as well? The 6 masked men were all shocked. If that was really the case, then their plan had gone terribly wrong. This guy was too abnormal. He was clearly only in his 20s. Why was he so talented in martial art and so strong, and yet he was also a formation master? Did he even want to let others live? However, you don't have to worry. The people I hate the most are those who plot against me. So, you guys can leave first. It won't be long before I kill that old bastard, and send him to reunite with you guys, Ling Han said. Leave. The tallest masked man made a prompt decision. He could already feel that his cultivation had been reduced to 5 bones. He probably wouldn't be a match for Ling Han. Shio. The 6 of them immediately scattered and fled. The 7 Calabash brothers were all in high spirits. They immediately charged out and trapped the person. Ling Han walked casually. Am I too kind? That's why there are always people who want to ride on my head. Fine, I'll kill to my heart's content today. I'll let them know that trespassing on my territory requires them to pay the price in blood. Peng, he punched out, and a masked man's head exploded. Oh, father is so cruel. The scene is too violent. It will lead children astray. Pity our innocent souls. The 7 babies covered their eyes, but the gaps between their fingers were wide open as they watched with relish. These 7 children were problem children from the moment they were born. Ling Han did not accept surrender. In just 2 or 3 moves, the 6-man team was completely annihilated. In a battle of the same level, other than Hong Tianbiyu, who else could block his fist? Perhaps Princess Bai Xiao could, or perhaps the first prince could, but they would only be able to block a few punches. In the end, they would not be a match for him. He threw the corpses of the 6 people outside the gate as a deterrent. When he threw the corpses out, Jin Sanyin, who was on a tall building hundreds of feet away, could not help but narrow his eyes. He felt a strong chill. Although the 6 people from the Lu family had become headless corpses, he clearly knew that they were all in the enlightenment state. The 6 of them had attacked, but not only had they failed to kill Ling Han, they had been completely annihilated by him in such a short time. These people from the Lu family should not be so stupid. They clearly knew that Ling Han was absolutely fair, and they had a lot of information, but they still swarmed forward. It was precisely because of this that Jin Sanyin gave up on the impulse to attack. There must be something fishy about the Ling family. How could this be good? The 6-man team from the Lu family was completely annihilated. Furthermore, he had met with them before this incident. This matter could not be concealed, and the Lu family would definitely find trouble with him. How could this be? Jin Sanyin felt like he was going crazy. This was a result that he had never expected, and he did not know what to do. After this night, the corpses outside the Ling family naturally caused a commotion. The Imperial Guards were mobilized, and they invited Ling Han out to conduct an investigation. Of course, with Ling Han's current strength and status, even the Imperial Guards were incomparably courteous and addressed him as a master. Ling Han spoke the truth. He was indeed only defending himself. After the Imperial Guards checked the corpses, they were shocked. These 6 people were all in the enlightenment state. In the past, there was only one enlightenment state cultivator in Xianbei country, and that was their Saint Emperor. Now, although there were many cultivators of the immortal path, the imperial capital was still very peaceful. 6 enlightenment state cultivators appearing in one go was naturally shocking. What was even more shocking was that these 6 cultivators had all been killed by Ling Han. Hiss, just how strong was this young man? When the news spread, the entire imperial capital was in an uproar. In an instant, the debate about who was stronger and who was weaker between Hong Tianbiyu and Ling Han started again. Previously, the 2 of them had a fair battle, and in the end, both of them were injured. It could be considered a draw, and everyone thought that their talents were comparable, and they could be called monstrous geniuses. But now that Ling Han's battle record was out, people naturally began to doubt whether Hong Tianbiyu was this strong. Hong Tianbiyu did not have any response, as if he was disdainful. Ling Han did not care at all, and he cultivated with all his might. Heaven and earth were changing, and with each passing day, the environment would change drastically, and the speed of cultivation would increase exponentially. At this time, the awesomeness of the Monkey King's cultivation method was reflected. He had also obtained a cultivation method from the Imperial Capital Academy, and compared it with the Monkey King's cultivation method. Previously, the difference between the two's cultivation speed was about 10 times, but now, it was 15 times. Moreover, the richer the heaven and earth force, the greater the difference. It turned out that a good cultivation method had to be matched with a good environment, or else it would not be able to fully display its power. At this time, a shocking piece of news came. The trials of the 9 dragons were about to begin. At first, Ling Han did not pay much attention to it, but after seeing the news from Shenyuan Dinghua, he became very interested. According to the information that circulated, the trials of the 9 dragons had existed in the previous civilization, and it had been passed down ever since. Anyone below the immortal path could enter, and after many rounds of selection, only one person could stand out and obtain great benefits. How great would the benefits be? In the previous civilization, the saints and saintesses of the large sects would purposely suppress their cultivation, and before they stepped onto the immortal path, they would enter to obtain great opportunities. Ling Han made a prompt decision. He must go, he must go. However, he was not the only one who was interested in the trials of the 9 dragons. According to reliable sources, the top-ranked princes had already made their move, and it was said that the princess of the demon clan was also preparing to depart. Most of the participants were descendants of the immortal path cultivators who occupied ancient sects and ancient mystic realms. There was no lack of geniuses among them, and they could all appear in the trials of the 9 dragons. The world's monstrous geniuses gathered. Reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3455. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han learned about the 9 dragons' secret realm in detail. Some information came from the hidden families, and some came from the ancient powers. After a day of preparation, he set off with the milk babies. He had dug out the foundation of the absolute fairness array. If this person left, the array would be useless here. Moreover, it would be easy for others to dig out the foundation and destroy it. After all, this array was only used to suppress one's cultivation. In fact, when he was alone, his strength wasn't affected at all. He knew that many people would be interested in his residence. Once he left, they would definitely come to check, so it was better to dig out the foundation. Ling Han kept a low profile and quietly left the city. He believed that many people wanted his life now. Even immortal path-level experts would appear. Chen Fengyan's deterrence was limited to the capital. To be precise, this deterrence did not come from Chen Fengyan, but from the formation spirit of the Green Dragon Formation. Since this formation was set in the capital, how could the formation spirit leave? Therefore, Ling Han had to keep a low profile. He hurried on with his head down. From time to time, he let 6th baby run with the spirit-nurturing gourd, while the others went in to further erase their tracks. After 4 days, he arrived at the place. The 9 dragons' trial ground seemed to have appeared overnight. It was originally a plain, and then 9 mountains suddenly rose from the ground. Moreover, there was a city wall surrounding it, so one could only enter through the main gate. Ling Han was not in a hurry to enter. Who knew if someone was waiting for him at the gate? As he had expected, there were 8 people guarding the entrance. However, Ling Han let 6th baby go over to investigate and found that they were not targeting him. He also walked over. No one is allowed to enter. The people blocking the gate were very arrogant. My master said that this opportunity can only be obtained by young master, so no one is allowed to enter. That worked too. Ling Han's expression was strange. Which family were these people from? They were so arrogant. Get lost. Those people all reprimanded. Someone was not convinced and wanted to force his way in. In the end, those blocking the gate attacked together and instantly killed that person. Ling Han was surprised, because there was no lack of Enlightenment realm experts among the people blocking the door, and even the weaker ones were at the engravement realm. This lineup could be said to be extravagant, but now they were only used to block the door. Which hidden family, or a powerful force that suddenly emerged from an ancient site? Once this prestige was established, no one dared to barge in recklessly. Although the world was recovering faster, the cultivation of the younger generation of Shenbei country was only at the blood transformation and extreme bone realms. Even the 4 marshals might not have reached the enlightening realm, so how could they overcome this obstacle? Everyone couldn't help but take a step back. To them, what was behind the door was no longer a fortuitous encounter, but the real gates of hell. Ling Han did not bat an eyelid as he wandered around, setting up array foundations one after another. His movements were very covert. He walked to a place and pretended to look around. With a throw of his hand, the base of the array was inserted deep into the ground without attracting anyone's attention. In order to reduce the possibility of being noticed, Ling Han even let the 7 milk babies enter the vitality-nourishing gourd. He did not insert it randomly. Using his eye sorcery, he observed the terrain and combined it with the power of the heavens. The positions of the array foundations were all nodes. When the last array foundation was inserted, Ling Han buried a large number of jade seeds, then slowly walked back towards the people blocking the door. Coincidentally, a few more people came at this time. One of them was a young man, followed by 4 middle-aged men, who seemed to be his followers. My master said that in this 9 dragons trial, my young master must take first place, so you don't have to go in. The people blocking the door still used the same words as before. How dare you? You even dare to block my way. The new young man was furious. Do you know who I am? No one can enter. The people blocking the door did not give way at all. The people who were blocked earlier were all interested, and they all came over to watch. The new young man snorted. My name is Liu Long. Do you know why this place is called the Nine Dragons' Secret Realm? It's set up for me. Ling Han almost stumbled. This guy was really thick-skinned. How could he say that? What Liu Long or Ma Long? Scram, scram, or you'll die. The people blocking the door waved their hands, their faces full of disdain. You, stand behind me. Liu Long caught up to Ling Han and said, I'm very happy today. Seeing that you still have courage, I've decided to bring you in. Ling Han pointed at himself. Me. All he had to do was activate the enhanced version of absolute fairness, and he could instantly kill these people at the door. Did he need someone to bring him? This was kind of fun. Surprised, right? Don't doubt it. This is how I like to help others, Liu Long said very narcissistically. He really could not tell. Ling Han smiled and said, all right, then thank you. Follow me, and I'll see who dares to stop me, Liu Long said proudly. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The four middle-aged men behind him immediately jumped out and blocked the way, heading towards the door. Courting death. The people blocking the door laughed coldly. Kill, kill without mercy. Immediately, the two sides started fighting fiercely. Liu Long's side was not weak. The four middle-aged men were all at the Awakening Realm, but they could not handle 6 Awakening Realm cultivators on the other side. It was 6 against 4, and the difference was obvious. Young master, run, one of Liu Long's men shouted. The 4 of them were held up by 6 Awakening Realm cultivators, and the other 2 Engravement Realm cultivators were closing in on Liu Long and Ling Han. The situation was very dangerous. Liu Long was not weak, but his cultivation was not high. He was only at the Extreme Bone Realm, so he would definitely be defeated by an Engravement Realm cultivator. F***CK. Liu Long spat out a curse and hurriedly broke into a run as he said, Brother, I'll bring you back next time. Now, hurry up and run. You still want to run? One of the 2 Engravement Realm cultivators went to stop Liu Long, while the other stared coldly at Ling Han. Aren't you afraid? That person asked Ling Han. Ling Han shrugged. What's the point of being afraid? Hee, it's useless. The Engravement Realm cultivator shook his head. If you don't listen obediently and insist on seeking death, who can save you? He brazenly attacked, grabbing at Ling Han. Ling Han clenched his fist and retaliated. What was there to be afraid of? There was only one word, bang. The two's forces collided, instantly creating a huge shockwave, and then the Engravement Realm cultivator was sent flying. What? Everyone's gaze followed that person's movements, their faces filled with disbelief. What was going on? Who would have thought that such a young man was actually a great expert, able to defeat an Engravement Realm cultivator with one punch? That meant that he was at least at the peak of the Engravement Realm. His phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3457. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ling Han really had to dig the ground, but the rocks were extremely hard. He was no different from an ordinary person here. Sigh, he could only walk. As he walked, the mountain seemed to have no end. No matter how high Ling Han climbed, when he looked up, it was still surrounded by clouds and fog. After walking for a long time, a road sign appeared in front of him. On it was written, Sky-reaching tree. What the hell was this? Ling Han continued to move forward with the milk babies, and soon discovered that there was an incomparably tall tree in front of them. It was indescribably thick, and there was a hole in the trunk that was big enough for a burly man to walk in easily. Do we go in from here? Ling Han touched his chin, because there was no other way to go other than this hole. Oh, what kind of tree is this? It's so tall. Second baby's neck was sore from looking up. Strange, it's not a divine tree, so how can it grow so tall? Sixth baby said. Huff, huff. Seventh baby fell asleep without warning. Ling Han picked up seventh baby and was about to enter the hole when he saw someone suddenly jump over from behind. Swoosh, 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 and there was more than one. This was a trial ground, so it was normal for people to come. However, Ling Han was worried that his hatred halo would play its role and attract more hatred. Although he was not afraid of fighting, it was actually quite boring to always fight with people for no reason. Ling Han was surprised because he saw someone he knew. Jin Sanyin. He was so old, and yet he had come to the trial. Although there was no age limit for entry, as long as one was below the celestial path, an old man who was close to or over 100 years old came to compete with young people. Wasn't he ashamed? Moreover, if the representative chosen for the trial was so old, it would not be in line with the purpose of the trial. Ling Han. Jin Sanyin naturally also noticed Ling Han, and his gaze sharpened. This group of people all stopped, but what surprised Ling Han was that the person in the lead was actually a young man who looked to be less than 30 years old. Although Jin Sanyin was standing shoulder to shoulder with the other party, there was a faint hint of respect in his actions towards this person. The young man looked at Ling Han and smiled. So you are Ling Han. I have heard of your name many times. Ling Han also smiled faintly, but did not reply. The young man's face couldn't help but sink as he said, I originally intended to take you as a follower, but it looks like if I don't polish your arrogance first, you obviously won't be convinced. Sage Jun, he killed the young emperor and young sword. How can we let him off so easily? Jin Sanyin hastily tried to persuade him. That young man was called Jin Junsheng, and he was the #1 genius of the Jin family. His luck was heaven-defying. Not long ago, during the upheaval of heaven and earth, he obtained a heaven-defying opportunity. Not only did his cultivation advance, he even cultivated a divine ability. Because of this, he was confirmed as the successor of the Jin family. His status was extraordinary, and even Jin Sanyin had to bow his head to him. He looked at Jin Sanyin unhappily and said, Ninth Master, killing someone is just a matter of nodding your head to the ground. But isn't it better to make an enemy submit to the might of my Jin family and make him work for my Jin family? Yes, Sage Jun, you are right. Jin Sanyin lowered his head. His position in the family was inferior to the young man's, and his strength was also inferior. Therefore, he naturally could not stand up straight. Jin Junsheng once again looked at Ling Han. You have two choices. Kneel down and submit, or I will beat you into submission and then you will submit to me. He was extremely arrogant. Ling Han was only at the extreme bone realm, while he was at the awakening realm. Furthermore, he had cultivated a divine ability. The difference in their battle strength was like the difference between heaven and earth. Ling Han's expression was indifferent. Of course he wasn't afraid of Jin Junsheng. If he used his absolute fairness, defeating him would only be a matter of a few moves. The problem was that the Jin family had so many people. Would 10 minutes be enough? Everyone knew that he had absolute fairness. Would they still foolishly allow him to do as he pleased? What? You want to rely on absolute fairness to make a comeback? Jin Junsheng shook his finger. Let's not talk about the fact that with my speed, it's impossible for you to pull me into the formation. Even if you can, with my battle strength, I can still abuse you like a dog. Ling Han laughed in spite of himself. Within the same realm, who could abuse him? Then let's try fighting at the same realm, he said. Jin Junsheng arrogantly said, you cultivate slowly, so why should I accommodate you? Cut the crap. My patience is limited, and time is precious. I don't have time to waste on you. Hurry up and make your decision. Ling Han rolled up his sleeves. Since you're sincerely looking for a beating, I'll help you. Stubborn fool. Jin Junsheng sneered and casually punched out, smashing towards Ling Han. Ling Han wanted to dodge, but he discovered that his body had suddenly frozen in place. Only his telekinesis was still circulating. What was going on? A screen of light suddenly appeared in front of him, and there were words written on it. Someone has challenged you. Because their realm is higher than yours, you can choose to suppress the opponent's realm. The smaller the suppression, the better the reward you will obtain. Ling Han was astonished. There was actually such a thing. This was the origin magnet mountain, and the origin magnet stone was one of the materials used to create the formation's foundation. Hiss, could it be that this entire mountain was a giant formation, and the formation spirit was communicating with him? You still have 10 seconds to consider. If you do not make a decision within the time limit, you will be randomly selected. Another line of words appeared on the screen. Ling Han was sure that although this screen was visible to his eyes, it was actually directly affecting his sea of consciousness. Therefore, although a long time had passed, the surrounding environment was still frozen, and the flow of time was incomparably slow. No, it shouldn't be said that the flow of time had slowed down, but rather that his consciousness was circulating at an extremely high speed. 9, 8, 7. The screen was currently counting down. Ling Han thought about it and said with his divine sense, then suppress it to the first level of inscription patterns. The moment he finished thinking, the motionless screen immediately returned to normal. Ling Han saw that Jin Juansheng's complexion had changed. Clearly, the other party had also received the notification that his cultivation had been suppressed. However, Jin Juansheng immediately regained his confident expression. Even if his engravement realm had been suppressed, he was still an entire realm higher than Ling Han. Moreover, he had also grasped a sacred art. A mere ant could be crushed to death with a single finger. He snorted, raised his right hand, and pressed it down towards Ling Han. Ling Han raised both of his fists and punched out. Peng, both parties collided. Ting, ting, ting. Both of them retreated at the same time. Ling Han was astonished. He was actually unable to gain the upper hand in this exchange. No wonder this fellow was so arrogant. It turns out that he had some strength. Jin Juansheng, on the other hand, was shocked. With the advantage of an entire realm, he was actually unable to suppress Ling Han. How was this possible? This was something that he could not accept. Moreover, he felt a sense of shame and anger from having his confidence pierced. Previously, he was full of confidence and boasted, but in the end, reading on the phone was more refreshing. Chapter 3458. BQG6, CC BQG6. CC, you dare look down on me? Jin Juansheng angrily said. Ling Han was startled. Jin Juansheng had looked down on him. He understood that he had chosen to lower his opponent's cultivation to 1 vein realm, not the extremity bone realm, and not even 2 bones, which was the same as him. Therefore, Jin Juansheng felt that he had underestimated him. Ling Han laughed. Haha, do you really think that if I really thought highly of you, you would still be able to receive a punch from me? Jin Juansheng's angry expression immediately crumbled, replaced with shame and anger. Indeed, he had the advantage of an entire realm, but he still hadn't been able to gain the upper hand against Ling Han. If the two of them had the same cultivation base, then how could he have been a match for a single punch from Ling Han? He had been so proud of himself, but what was the result? That damnable fellow. He cursed in a low voice, his eyes filled with an ominous light. He wanted to kill someone, to kill Ling Han. Previously, he had been high and mighty, believing that Ling Han only had an undeserved reputation. His so-called genius reputation was just flattery. But if he had subdued such a person as his subordinate, then wouldn't that show how incomparably great he was? In any case, he didn't have any deep feelings for Jin Shaohuang and Jin Shaojian. On the contrary, they had even fought over cultivation resources. Therefore, if the two of them died, then so be it. He didn't care at all. But now that he had been ruthlessly humiliated, it was naturally impossible for him to maintain his high and mighty attitude. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to kill and vent his anger. Ling Han shook his head. Who deserves to die? You. Wait until I personally kill you. The ground will be covered in fresh blood, Jin Juansheng coldly said. Ling Han shrugged. Your mouth isn't bad, but your strength is too weak. Die for me. Jin Juansheng roared and charged over. His blood qi immediately surged, forming a demonic cloud. He roared loudly, his voice like thunder. Ling Han only smiled and raised his fist to meet the attack. Peng peng peng. The two of them engaged in an intense exchange. In terms of strength, Jin Juansheng was definitely stronger. But after a few exchanges, Ling Han was able to grasp the pulse of his opponent's attacks. He didn't need to boil his blood qi to be able to fight evenly with his opponent. However, he had to throw out 40 to 50 punches at once, which consumed too much of Ling Han's secret power. He would definitely not be able to maintain such a state. However, there was a limit to how long his blood qi could boil. Jin Junsheng would soon exit this state. You really are a monster. Jin Junsheng clenched his teeth. His blood qi was boiling, but he was still unable to suppress Ling Han. He had no choice but to admit that Ling Han was a monster that he was unable to reach. I will kill you and take all your secrets, everything you have will be mine. Ling Han couldn't help but laugh. You really love dreaming. You think so much with just this little bit of strength. Forget it, I'll just send you on your way. You dare to look down on me? Jin Junsheng roared angrily. He had finally used his ultimate move. Bang! A bloody mist surged out of his body and transformed into the shape of a leopard. His aura instantly rose by a large amount. Moreover, there was an additional bloodthirsty emotion that could infect others and make them go crazy. Xiao, Jin Junsheng attacked once more, his speed exploding. So fast. In just a flash, he had arrived in front of Ling Han. His palm slashed out like a sharp claw. Ling Han used the drifting wind and cloud to dodge this attack. But Jin Junsheng's speed was too fast, and Ling Han was barely able to dodge this attack. It's the lowest level of divine ability. Second baby evaluated. However, it's extremely rare to have a divine ability under the immortal path. It can crush 99% of those in the same realm. Fifth baby nodded in agreement. It's a pity that he met father, said third baby proudly. Ling Han snorted and attacked with his baleful aura. This attack seemed to ignore the distance, and Jin Junsheng was instantly hit. His movements couldn't help but become sluggish. Ling Han took this opportunity to attack. He used the demon monkey fist and punched out. An ancient demon monkey appeared and bared its fangs. It was filled with ruthlessness. Bang! With just one punch, Jin Junsheng was sent flying. However, after activating the divine ability, not only did Jin Junsheng's speed increase, but his ability to resist attacks had also increased by a large amount. This punch was only able to injure him lightly. He let out a roar and returned to attack. Xiao, xiao, xiao. He leaped like a flickering light, not giving Ling Han a chance to catch him. Otherwise, he would be hit by another baleful aura. Ling Han shook his head. His telekinesis could cover a radius of 15 meters. As long as Jin Junsheng rushed into this area, he would definitely be caught. How could he dodge? He was truly deceiving himself. Blood leopard rush, Jin Junsheng shouted. When he waved his claws again, his hands had already turned scarlet red. A bloody light shot out, and it was like a death scythe that slashed toward Ling Han. Ling Han also roared and fearlessly met the attack, using the demon monkey fist to meet it head-on. Peng, peng, peng. He used a high frequency of attacks to disperse the bloody light. Immediately after, a baleful aura attack shot out. This was something that he had cultivated to the 7th transformation. So what if he was in the enlightenment realm? He would still be affected. Jin Junsheng was instantly stunned. However, his cultivation was higher, and after using the divine ability, he also had a certain degree of immunity to the baleful aura attack. In less than 1/10 of a second, he had recovered. But at this time, Ling Han's fist also arrived. Jin Junsheng hastily met the attack. Peng, his entire body was instantly sent flying. You've completely infuriated me, Jin Junsheng roared. He took out a long saber from thin air and grasped it with both hands. The blade immediately shone and became incomparably resplendent. Then, he slashed at Ling Han. Magic tool. Ling Han lightly snorted. Do you think you're the only one with a magic tool? His right hand shook, and a hammer appeared. After injecting secret power into it, the veined patterns on the hammer lit up. Following that, he swung the hammer in the air. Z, a blazing white lightning struck toward Jin Junsheng. This wasn't true lightning, but its speed was astonishingly fast. With a pa, it struck the edge of the saber. Pa, Jin Junsheng was once again sent flying. He heavily landed on the ground, and his body emitted an intense charred smell. His face was ashen. It was filled with disbelief and disbelief. He couldn't beat Jin Junsheng with his boiling blood chi, he couldn't beat Jin Junsheng with his divine ability, and he couldn't even take out his magic tool. He was starting to doubt his life. How could there be someone so strong that he was still in such despair even though he had lost an entire realm? Attack together, Jin Sanyin roared. He hurriedly charged forward with the remaining Jin clan members. Jin Junsheng was the future hope of the Jin clan. He definitely couldn't die here. 6 people have joined the battle and are attacking you. Time froze once again. Ling Han once again saw the light screen in his sea of consciousness. There were words appearing, and there seemed to be some kind of pulse that transcended words and language. It allowed him to understand the meaning of the words. You can choose to isolate these 6 people, or you can choose to have a few people join the battle. Because these 6 people's realms are above yours, you can also choose to suppress their cultivation. The more people that join the battle, the lower the cultivation suppression, and the more rewards you will obtain after you win. Phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3459. BQG6. CCBQG6. CCBQG6. Ling Han said confidently, all 6 of you, suppress your cultivation to the 5th level of inscription patterns. Even if an ordinary engravement realm cultivator stood on the 5th step, he could still sweep them away. Speaking of which, he actually thought quite highly of Jin Junsheng, suppressing his opponent's cultivation to 1 vein. Ling Han rushed out, and like a raging bull, he charged around wildly. The power of his fist was too frightening. When he punched out, it was as if a huge mountain was crushing down. Even if Jin Sanyin and the others were all at the level of 5 veins, it was still not enough, especially when Ling Han had grasped the pulse of each of their attacks. Once he attacked with that frequency, who could stand a chance against him? How can this kid be so strong? Monstrous beyond description. His only 2 bone. The Jin clan members were all shocked. 7 engravement realm cultivators against a paramount bone realm cultivator, and a mere 2 bone cultivator at that. Not only were they unable to suppress this small fry, but they were also beaten to the point where they could only cry out bitterly. What paramount bone realm? How could it be so strong? Even in the previous civilization, did those saint sons and saintesses have such strength? The Jin clan was a remnant clan and knew some information about the ancient era. That era was the golden age of martial art, and there were many talented saint sons and saintesses. But which one of them could reach Ling Han's height? I'll deal with you all. Ling Han no longer showed mercy. His baleful aura surged out as he circulated the demon monkey fist. Bang! Bang! One after another, their heads exploded. With the impact of the murderous aura and the addition of the beastly monkey fist, Ling Han's battle prowess was definitely unparalleled. Only Jin Junsheng could barely stand against him. The rest were mediocre, and even those with 5 veins were completely insufficient. In just a few punches, only Jin Junsheng and Jin Sanyin were still alive. Ling Han looked at Jin Sanyin and said, "Old man, you're really sinister. You don't dare to kill me yourself, but you incite the Lu clan to die. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to kill you," Jin Sanyin said hatefully. "I promised the Lu clan that I would send you to reunite with them as soon as possible. Looks like today is the time." Ling Han charged over and punched out. Under the impact of the baleful aura, Jin Sanyin immediately fell into a daze. This was not a divine ability, but its power seemed to surpass all divine abilities. Ling Han punched out, and Jin Sanyin barely managed to raise his hand to block it, but he still couldn't avoid the fate of being killed. Only Jin Junsheng was left. How is this possible? How is this possible? Jin Junsheng's voice trembled. He was a genius of the Jin clan and his life had always been smooth sailing. But now that he had suddenly fallen into such a desperate situation, his will was on the verge of collapsing. Ling Han showed no mercy and added another punch. Jin Junsheng followed in the footsteps of the other Jin family members. The light screen reappeared, and Ling Han saw a new message in his sea of consciousness. "You've won. This is your reward." Wang, a ray of light descended from the sky and entered Ling Han's body. Life energy surged, and Ling Han's cultivation base began to stir, as if a shackle was being torn apart. This is very similar to the energy bestowed upon me by the green dragon array spirit. He hurriedly sat down cross-legged and began to coordinate with this energy to increase his vitality. Pa, pa, pa. The shackles within his body were being torn apart, emitting thunderous sounds. Ling Han couldn't help but let out a groan. The increase in vitality in the extreme bone realm was truly too painful. This was because bone fragments were constantly falling off, and this process brought him immense pain. It was truly painful. Ling Han clenched his teeth and persevered. If he couldn't persevere, the increase in vitality would stop. They were both at the 3-bone realm, but one had torn 3 shackles, while the other had torn 10 shackles. Could their battle prowess be compared? He wanted to become the strongest. He didn't want to be like Jin Junsheng or Jin Sanyin, being defeated or even killed. If he wanted to be the strongest. Another shackle was torn apart. Ling Han was both in pain and happiness. On one hand, he hoped that this pain would end as soon as possible. On the other hand, he hoped that the process of ascension could continue forever. However, after more than half an hour, the great leap in life level finally slowed down and stopped. 3-bone realm. Ling Han revealed a smile. Although he was already very close to the 3-bone realm, if he were to rely on his own cultivation, he would still need a month or so. Furthermore, he would need the treasure fruit of life, unlike this ray of light that could automatically replenish his life force. Congratulations, father. You've taken another step forward. 7th baby was the first to speak. The remaining milk babies also congratulated him. 3rd baby even said, although we are born with a very high vitality, and as long as we grow normally, our realms will naturally increase. However, there are also benefits to growing step by step. 2nd baby nodded and continued, we are born perfect, but it's possible for someone like father to break through the limits and achieve limitless possibilities. Although it's basically all kinds of powerful innate divine bodies that dominate the universe, there are also mortals who have attained the Tao. Furthermore, if mortals can charge to the highest peak, their battle prowess will definitely be incomparably terrifying. Even innate divine bodies will pale in comparison. Ling Han nodded. He had reached the 7 changes when he was at the blood transformation realm. Normally speaking, innate divine bodies should be equivalent to the 6 changes. The 7 changes was really too special. Walking step by step, although it was harder and longer than innate divine bodies, could create limitless possibilities. However, wasn't it too easy to improve one's cultivation here? All he needed to do was fight a few times. Ling Han couldn't help but look forward to when someone would come to challenge him and make him advance a few more levels. It would be best if he was already in the secret realm by the time he got out. He searched the corpses of Jin Junsheng and the others. He found a few spatial artifacts, but there was nothing of shocking value in them. Even Jin Junsheng's saber was only at the enlightenment realm. Ling Han led the milk babies into the tree hole. It was abnormally spacious inside. It didn't seem like the interior of a tree at all, but more like another world. However, although this place seemed strange, nothing out of the ordinary happened. The group walked calmly for more than an hour and kept going upwards. A light appeared in front of them, and they saw the exit. Outside the exit was actually a lake. The waves were rippling, and the lake water was abnormally clear. However, they couldn't see the bottom at all. At most, they could only see about 50 feet underwater. Ling Han used his eye sorcery, but he could only go down about 30 feet. He still couldn't see the bottom. 2nd baby also looked and then shook his head at Ling Han. Dad, I can't see the bottom either. Even 2nd baby's eyesight couldn't see the bottom. This lake was obviously not ordinary deep. There were many people around the lake, but no one went down. It was unknown whether they were waiting for something or observing something. It's about to start, someone suddenly shouted. The sound of water could be heard. A whirlpool appeared in the center of the lake, spinning rapidly. The center of the whirlpool was dark and extremely deep, as if it could reach the bottom of the lake. At this moment, The lake water suddenly changed and froze in an instant. Reading on mobile phones is more refreshing. Chapter 3461. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Cece. When Ling Han jumped into the ice lake, a figure walked out of the tree hole and glanced at everyone with a cold gaze. This person's gaze seemed to be solid. Anyone who was looked at by him would feel as if their blood was frozen, and they would not even be able to walk. Their skin would also feel waves of pain. The people nearby suddenly turned around and looked at that person. This was a young man around 23 or 24 years old. He wore a spotless white robe and was filled with an elegant temperament. "Yo, where did this pretty boy come from? He's pretty handsome," someone immediately teased. This was a wretched middle-aged man who had a sexual orientation problem. He stared at the white-clothed young man's face with a disgusting expression. "Fuck, shut your fucking mouth. This guy is Tong Miao." Someone recognized the white-robed youth and immediately shouted at the vulgar middle-aged man. "He's just a pretty boy. What's there to be surprised about?" The wretched middle-aged man didn't take it to heart at all. At this time, Tong Miao also walked toward him. "Pretty boy, what do you want to do? Are you not convinced? Hihi, be careful or I'll screw you until you're deflated." The vulgar middle-aged man laughed without any misgivings. "Lunatic, you're courting death." The people around him hurriedly made way for him. Only then did the wretched middle-aged man realize that he might have provoked an extremely powerful existence, but he still didn't take it to heart, because he was an existence of the enlightening state. In the prison, he was nothing, but outside, he was already a very powerful existence. The gigolo looked to be only 23 or 24 years old. How could he be stronger than him? Sure, a sword light streaked past. The wretched middle-aged man revealed a startled expression, but in the next moment, his entire body was split into two halves. He slid down to the left and right, and blood flowed all over the ground. Hiss, he's dead. The surrounding people were all shocked. No one saw how Tong Miao swung her sword, but the perverted man was dead. That man was at the enlightening state, and he was still alive after harassing so many people. One could imagine how strong he was. Just who in the world was this Tong Miao? He was way too ferocious, wasn't he? He's the third son of the Hengtian sect's sect leader. Someone revealed Tong Miao's background. Hiss, the Hengtian sect. Many people cried out in surprise. That's a lunatic sect full of bloodthirsty perverts. Sure, lower your voice. Tong Miao sheathed his sword, but just as he put it away, he took it out again. He stared at the blade and saw a drop of blood on it. Filthy blood. He muttered in a low voice. When he raised his head again, his eyes had already become blood red and were emitting an intense killing intent. "Shio," he charged out, and with a sweep of his sword, a person's head was chopped off. The sword was light and agile, and it was not suitable for slashing. However, the sword was too sharp, and Tong Miao was too strong. With a single slash, the head flew into the air and blood spurted out. He didn't even spare them another glance. His figure moved about and unleashed a great slaughter. Heads flew into the air one after another, and there was actually not a single person who was a match for him. Everyone resisted for a while, but even with so many of them working together, it was useless. He killed them one by one with a single swing of his sword. Thus, everyone's fighting spirit soon crumbled, and they all fled. However, Tong Miao only knew how to slaughter. He didn't care if others provoked him at all. He just waved his sword and killed. As blood splattered everywhere, his white robe was gradually dyed red, but he didn't care at all. There was even a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth, and it was incredibly terrifying. He was truly a pervert, a lunatic, a demon. In less than 10 minutes, almost everyone here had been slaughtered by him. Because there was no path ahead, they could only retreat to the tree hole, which resulted in only a few survivors of this massacre. There was only one person left here. Tong Miao stood alone with his sword. He closed his eyes and deeply breathed in the air that was filled with blood. An expression of enjoyment appeared on his face, as if he was addicted. Pa, pa, pa. There was the sound of light footsteps. Tong Miao immediately opened his eyes and looked towards the exit of the tree hole. His killing intent was boiling, and his emotions were extremely fanatical. Very soon, a figure walked out. He was tall and slender, and had a handsome face. It was as if he had a radiance about him, causing others to feel as if they didn't dare to look at him directly. Tong Miao's eyes involuntarily narrowed, and his grip on his sword tightened even more. The handsome man's gaze swept over, and he couldn't help but sigh. So miserable. Tong Miao directly charged over. Shua, his sword swept out, and it was as if the entire world would be sliced in half by his sword. The handsome man, however, was not afraid at all. His right hand shook, and a spear appeared. Clang, it blocked the sword. A wave of energy rippled out, and the two of them simultaneously shook, revealing expressions of shock. They hadn't received any notification in their minds, which meant that the other party's cultivation shouldn't be weaker than theirs. "Who are you to actually be able to block my sword?" Tong Miao asked. The handsome man laughed. "Only if you can block another 10 of my spear attacks will you be qualified to know my name." Tong Miao snorted and once again brandished his sword. Ding, ding, ding. The two of them continuously clashed, and in an instant, they had exchanged more than 10 moves. "Ha ha ha, I am Dong Qi." The handsome man finally said his name. Tong Miao stuck out his tongue and licked the edge of his sword. He said, "So you are the madman Dong Qi. Ha ha, you are the 7th person to die under my sword, and I even remember your name. Shameless boasting." Dong Qi raised his spear and stabbed forward. The two of them fought fiercely once more, and both of them used their full strength. Fight, fight, fight. The two of them fought fiercely. Only one person could stand out from the rest of the peak, and so powerful existences like them would have to fight sooner or later. They might as well get rid of their competitors now. But suddenly, the two of them stopped fighting at the same time and separated by about 30 meters. Then, they both looked in the direction of the tree hole. In just a moment, they saw a slender figure walk out of the tree hole. It was a young woman with a slender and sexy figure. Her waist was slender, and her 2 long legs could reach the waist of an average person. Her appearance didn't disappoint her good figure. Her facial features were exquisite, and she had a pair of purple eyes that were intelligent and enchanting. The woman glanced at Dong Qi and Tong Miao and smiled sweetly. "The two of you really like to fight. You're already fighting so passionately here." Xin Ruyue. Dong Qi's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I didn't expect someone to recognize me," the woman said in surprise. Dong Qi chuckled. "Who doesn't know that Fairy Xin is the disciple of the Primeval Lord? The Primeval Lord is a peerless expert in the prison. It's just that he's temporarily unable to leave." Xin Ruyue pursed her lips and smiled. "In that case, can the two of you let me go to another peak?" "Sorry, that's not possible," Tong Miao immediately said coldly. Dong Qi laughed. "Fairy Xin really knows how to joke. You can only choose one peak for the fledgling dragon trial. Otherwise, you'll have to wait for the next one. Who knows how many decades or even centuries it will be. You're already dead, so what's the point of talking about opportunities?" Xin Ruyue shook her head, and a silver whip appeared in each of her hands. The battle resumed. Phone reading is more refreshing. Chapter 3462. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Ceciling Han did not know that there were 3 talented young people fighting fiercely on the shore of the lake. He observed the passage with great interest. There must be an amazing formation here, and he was very interested in formations now. He wanted to study it. If he broke the formation directly, would he take all the benefits? Ling Han thought greedily. There was no other way. Look at the current top geniuses: Hong Tian Step, Enlightenment Realm, Demon Princess, Secret Realm, and the younger generation that came out of each secret realm were at least at the Enlightenment Realm. In comparison, he was only 3 bones, and the gap was too big. No matter how monstrous he was, no matter how much he could fight above his level, it was impossible for him to surpass so many realms. He wasn't in a hurry. Although they were fighting to be the first to reach the top, once the trial ground was opened, there would be an endless stream of people entering. If they were the first to arrive, Wouldn't that be unfair to those who came later? Therefore, it would not be so easy to reach the top. The tunnel at the bottom of the lake was very long, and he could see tree roots piercing in. He had to be very careful when walking, or he would bump into them. There were actually sharp thorns on the tree roots. This was poisonous. Although it was not fatal, it could easily pierce the skin if touched. It was extremely painful, and it would make the body weak, and his strength would decrease greatly. Ling Han only suffered once. Fortunately, he circulated the Monkey King's cultivation technique, and after a short while, he managed to suppress the poison. A day passed, and the poison was almost completely eliminated. After a day, he also saw some results. There is a hidden passage here. Through Ling Han's exploration of the formation, coupled with the observation of his eye technique, he discovered a hidden entrance in the passageway, and behind the entrance was another long passageway. He thought about it, walked in, and then hid the entrance. Would this lead straight to the top? Ling Han thought as he moved forward. He was not fast. He had already suffered a loss, and he did not want to suffer again. The passage was very long, but there was an end. After walking for more than an hour, the front suddenly opened up, and a huge square appeared, but it was dark above, and he should still be in the mountain. It was dark here, but Ling Han could still see things within a range of 10 feet after opening it. It was not to say that he could see everything, but it was not difficult for him to see things. In this place, second baby's vision was also greatly limited, but he could still see 60 meters away, which was much better than Ling Han's. This plaza was very large, and it was completely empty, causing Ling Han to be greatly disappointed. Hey! Second baby looked up, as if he had discovered something. Ling Han, however, could not see anything, but after advancing a little further, he finally discovered that there was actually a gigantic stone statue in front of him. This stone statue was extremely tall, at least 300 meters tall. Although Ling Han couldn't see the top, he couldn't even see the knees of the stone statue at the end of the 30 meters. Based on this, the height of this stone statue was at least 300 meters. In such a mystic realm, a secret passage was opened, and a huge square was built just for a statue. Ling Han walked around the stone statue and did not find any offerings, which made him very disappointed. Forget it, let's continue forward. They passed through the stone statue and came to the end of the square, where the terrain in front changed suddenly. The previous square was paved with unknown stones, as smooth as white jade, and had a transparent texture. But in front of them was a grassland, full of withered yellow grass. Logically speaking, there was no light here, and it was impossible for vegetation to grow here. The withered grass might have existed for a long time, but it was strange that it had not decayed after so many years. Ling Han stepped on it and suddenly felt soft under his feet. The bottom was mud, so it collapsed with one step. The surface of the mud was broken, and there was a pungent smell. Ooh! The 7 children covered their noses at the same time. Dad, it stinks. Let's go back. It's so smelly. I'm going to fall over. Disgusting. Ling Han also felt disgusted, but his curiosity had been aroused. How could he go back just like that? He thought for a moment and said, "You guys wait here, I'll go take a look." Although the Calabash brothers were somewhat unwilling, they could not resist the stench. After looking at each other, they nodded. Ling Han took out a piece of cloth to cover his nose, and then slowly walked forward step by step. He did not dare to use his body movement technique. Otherwise, if he moved too fast, the sound waves would shake the place into a mess. At that time, he might really die from the stench. Even so, the stench was enough to choke him. Even with the cloth covering his nose, he still had to dig in. After walking for a while, Ling Han suddenly realized that he seemed to be stepping on something hard. He lowered his head and used his ocular technique to take a look. He could not help but be shocked. What he is stepping on is actually a skull. Hiss! Ling Han's heart skipped a beat. When he looked at the mud again, he could not help but reveal a shocked expression. It was blood mud. He walked forward again and soon stepped on another bone. This time, it was a thigh bone. As he walked forward, there were even more bones. The first few were still intact, but the next few were different. Many of them were broken, and he could see the broken corpses. The number was shocking. According to the density, there were at least a few hundred corpses in the area that Ling Han had explored. Had there been a massacre here? Blood flowed like a river, turning this grassland into a land of blood mud. Ling Han stopped. Should he continue walking forward? There were corpses everywhere. What was there to see? After thinking about it, Ling Han decided to walk to the end. What was the situation here? After walking for a while, he was surprised to find that the ground was actually slowly drying up. When he looked again, he could see corpses lying on the ground. Unlike the corpses from before, which had all decomposed into bones, the corpses here seemed to have died not long ago. The clothes on their bodies were also not rotten. Ling Han squatted down and looked at these corpses. There were obvious wounds on these corpses, all of which were fatal. Some had their hearts blown out, some had their necks cut off, and many corpses had their hands and feet broken. It could be seen that the battle at that time was fierce. Judging from the clothes, this was very different from the style of Xianbei country. They were all wearing simple clothes, combat suits, robes, or Taoist robes. Ling Han's heart moved. Were these the warriors of the previous civilization? The previous civilization suddenly disappeared. Jin Sanyin said that there was a great catastrophe that led to the collapse of the previous civilization overnight. However, Ling Han had been to some historical sites. Obviously, there was no massacre there. It seemed that they had evacuated on their own, which was different from what Jin Sanyin said. Now it seemed that both of them were right. The previous civilization did suffer a massacre, but there were still some survivors who escaped from heavenly starfish. Reading on the mobile phone is more refreshing. Chapter 3463. A Good Romance. BQG 6. Cisa Ling Han continued to walk forward. Since he had come this far, he certainly couldn't give up halfway. He wanted to know who the executioner of the previous civilization was. Moreover, what the hell were the cultivators of the celestial path that emerged from the mystery realms? Were they the survivors of the previous civilization? He was a curious person. The further he went, the fresher the corpse was, and he could still see the gurgling blood flowing. If this was a victim of the previous civilization, then at least 2,000 years had passed. Why hadn't the blood been drained? Was it a peerless cultivator? Ling Han tried to go closer, but his face immediately changed. His skin was stinging as if he was being cut by a knife. Even breathing was difficult, and he felt uncomfortable. If he took another step forward, he might just explode. Hiss, this person was already dead, but how could he still have such terrifying power? What kind of height did these people reach when they were alive? Heh! He saw a corpse. It was clearly humanoid, but it had a furry face, a protruding mouth, and monkey cheeks. It really looked like a monkey. Monkey Man. He thought of Monkey King, and an incredible idea suddenly jumped out. Could Monkey King also be a cultivator of the previous civilization? When he first came to Heavenly Sea Star, the lifespan of mortals was only about 100 years. Even if they were successful in cultivation, their lifespan would not be more than 1,000 years. Therefore, he didn't associate Monkey King with the previous civilization at all. But now that he thought about it, Monkey King could be crushed by a mountain and not die. What kind of power was that? Could it be done in the mystery realms? Probably not. It must be a cultivator of the celestial path. Then Monkey King should be from the previous civilization, so it should be possible. Besides, there were many cultivators appearing in various mystery realms, and they seemed to be inextricably linked to the previous civilization, which further proved this point. Thinking of Monkey King, Ling Han couldn't help but think. He took out a piece of clothing and put it on the monkey man's body, covering its head. He felt a chill in his heart. Since the previous civilization had a massacre, would such a scene happen again? Sigh, why did he always encounter such things? In the lower realm, the 5 sects used all the creatures on the continent as materials to refine pills. They would refine pills once every 10,000 years, slaughtering billions of creatures. This place seemed to be extremely dangerous. No, he had to increase his cultivation as soon as possible. Otherwise, what could he use to protect himself if chaos came again? If he died, then all the living beings in the billions of planes in his body would die with him. Ling Han listened attentively. Although it was too dark to see clearly, his hearing was not affected. He heard a commotion. Something was rapidly approaching, but it was 100 feet away. Otherwise, he would have been able to see it. The question was, since he couldn't see the other party, how did the other party discover him? His vision is far superior to his own. One had to know that he could only see up to a distance of 30 meters after activating his eye sorcery. Just how powerful was this unknown existence? Ling Han was prepared. He could activate absolute fairness at any time. Finally, his eyes caught sight of a black shadow. He was shocked, because this was not a person, but a spider. However, this spider's body was huge, comparable to a calf. Otherwise, it wouldn't be described as head. The spider's entire body was pitch black, and its 8 legs were like spears. It dashed forward at an astonishing speed. On the contrary, Ling Han relaxed. Because he could clearly see that there were 4 inscription patterns glowing inside the spider's body. A 4-mark demonic beast, there was nothing to be afraid of. But why was a 4-mark demonic beast able to discover his existence from so far away? Firstly, spiders might have an astonishing sense of hearing or smell. Secondly, this place might be covered with spider silk, and he unknowingly touched it, thus alerting this huge spider. Shoo, shoo, shoo. Still separated by a distance of 7 to 8 feet, the huge spider began to spit out spider silk, entangling Ling Han. This spider possessed a powerful stickiness. If he really came into contact with it, Ling Han would be tightly entangled, greatly affecting his mobility. Ling Han dodged, and then retaliated with a punch. The strength of the punch materialized, and a glowing fist the size of an iron wok smashed towards the black spider. This fist was even wrapped with a high-level metal attribute energy, increasing its destructive power. Peng, the fist landed on the spider silk. He didn't expect this spider silk to be so tough, and was actually unable to penetrate it. However, after being blocked like this, the momentum of the spider silk was completely exhausted, and it instantly fell to the ground, and was retrieved by the huge spider. Ling Han was slightly shocked. Although this punch wasn't his full strength, it was still enough to suppress the majority of engravement realm cultivators. He didn't expect it to actually be unable to suppress this huge spider. It was quite powerful. The huge spider randomly spat out spider silk. Shoo, shoo, shoo. This place was covered with white spider silk, as if it was entangled with numerous silk ribbons. With an astonishing speed, it weaved into a huge net. With another jump, it was already on the spiderweb, and it rushed towards Ling Han. On the spiderweb, its speed was even faster. Very soon, it arrived in front of Ling Han, and one of its long legs pierced towards Ling Han, like a cold iron spear. Ling Han's arrogance rose, and he raised his fist to meet the attack. High-level metal attribute energy entangled his fist. He wanted to see whose fist was harder. Peng! The fist and the spider's leg collided, forming a huge shock wave that shook the entire spider web. Ling Han laughed loudly, and his battle intent blazed. His fists continuously punched out, and he madly punched out. The huge spider was also very tyrannical, and it didn't back down in the slightest as it clashed head-on with Ling Han. After a series of hundreds of attacks, Ling Han and the huge spider stopped at the same time. Fresh blood dripped from Ling Han's fist, and the huge spider wasn't much better off. Its entire spider leg was somewhat deformed. Luckily, it had a total of 8 legs, and it was enough for it to continue fighting. You have some strength. Ling Han's battle intent surged, and he pounced forward. Again, he used the demon monkey fist, and as he punched out, an ancient demon monkey appeared, emitting a boundless evil aura. His attainments in the demon monkey fist were becoming more and more profound. The huge spider met the attack head-on, but the demon monkey fist unleashed 50 stacks of power, and the frequency of the attacks was extremely powerful. The huge spider was instantly suppressed, and it was forced to retreat repeatedly. Even the spider web couldn't withstand the tyrannical power of Ling Han's punches, and it was broken one by one. However, Neither Ling Han nor the huge spider noticed that the Monkaman corpse whose head was covered by Ling Han suddenly opened its eyes. Within its deathly white eyes, there was a glossy green light flickering. Ling Han shouted, and his battle prowess grew stronger and stronger. After a few more punches, the huge spider's 2 legs were broken. The huge spider finally didn't dare to continue fighting, and it hurriedly used its remaining 6 legs to flee. After paying the price of 3 more punches from Ling Han, it finally succeeded in escaping. Ling Han didn't chase after it. This place was too dark, and if he ran around randomly, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to find his way back. It was more refreshing to read on his phone. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.